Why do we need temples? After all, the main temple is within.
Om. Namaste. The main temple being within is a true statement. This statement is in agreement with the words of great saints, the texts of the Upanishads, and the assertions of many sacred scriptures, such as the texts of Sri Shankaracharya, Atmabodha, and Yoga Vasishta. By the main temple within, we understand our Atman, our inner, luminous, divine, pure, all-knowing, and all-pervading nature of mind, the God within us. However, let us consider who can truly make full use of this statement. After all, this statement could only be true for those who have attained samadhi and are liberated and enlightened, who can actually feel this. Who has built or discovered this temple within? And what about other people? Here we need to ask, is this temple within open? Is it already built? Because besides the temple within in the soul, there is also a lot of ignorance, a lot of debris, a lot of karma. And sometimes, when looking into their soul, many people cannot find a temple. They say, I have anger within me, I have lust, I have attachment, I have passion, I have greed, I have envy. Inside me there are restless thoughts, anxiety, hopes, fears, clinging. There is thirst for power, thirst for money, for wealth. And so, when a person does not feel that there is a temple inside, when they feel boredom, laziness, lack of grace, frustration within, it means that the temple is absent inside them. The temple has not been built, and the person has not reached their inner temple yet. To tell them that the temple is within is like telling a poor person, a beggar, that wealth is inside them. Or telling a hungry person, satisfy yourself, all the food you need is inside you, don't worry, man. In other words, to say such things would be to make a fundamental mistake regarding that person. The temple is within in the absolute sense, but in relative, real terms, it is not inside everyone, only in those who have reached a certain level of holiness. So what should other people do? Such people need a temple outside themselves. They need to come to the temple in order to give away their inner pain, inner suffering, inner anger, inner greed, inner pride and attachments, to bring these out and dissolve them before God in a state of devotion, sincerity, and purity. And for that, an external temple is necessary. If we treat the concept of temple as a concentrator of a certain divine spiritual power, a magical energy, and not just as consciousness, then everything becomes clear. For example, we don't say that food is inside us. No one thinks that way, that all food is inside us. We go to the store and specifically pay and buy groceries because our body doesn't care what we tell it. It won't believe us. It demands food. We need a source of energy. It's the same for the soul. A temple for the soul is just like a grocery store for the body. The body is nourished by food from the store, while the subtle body, the soul, is nourished by energy, divine, magical energy from the temple, until it learns to draw this energy from itself, from deep within. And in this sense, a temple resembles such a mystical structure, a yantra, as a concentrator of divine energy, which distributes this divine energy. The very name of the temple in the tradition of Sanatana Dharma is pronounced as Mandir. Mandir, and in the south, in Tamil, it is called Kovil. This means the house of God. A temple is a place where God is present and where God resides. It is a mini-model of the universe, built according to certain canonical principles. And if it is not possible to build such a full-fledged temple, then a pillar is erected or an altar is set up. It can also be in a form of a sanctuary. So the mandir as a temple, as a yantra, as a concentrator of divine energy, is constructed according to certain divine principles set out in the science of sacred geometry and architecture, known as Vastu. And the center of the temple is the womb, the Garbhagriha, which is the central part. Inside the Garbhagriha there is an altar and a murti, that is, a sculpture or image of the deity. And it is into this sculpture that, through the ritual of Prana Pratishta, the divine power is invoked. The deity takes up residence there, and this deity is then maintained and nourished through worship services, radiating very pure energy for several kilometers around the temple, provided everything is done properly according to the scriptures. And the faithful who come are able to receive this divine magical energy. So, when they come to the temple to worship the deity, to make offerings to behold him, for a time their minds are purified and enlightened, their qualities are elevated and improved. Their memory becomes better, their inspiration increases, their clarity and wisdom grow, their health and longevity improve, their life force rises, and their success and good fortune are enhanced. Thus, they would receive blessings from the deity because they came into contact with the altar, with the murti. They receive darshan of the deity as the one who radiates this sacred, pure, divine energy.
There is also the upper part of the temple, which is called the Shikara.
The Shikara, also known as the Vimana, is the pointed spire at the top of the temple. And at the very top is the Kailash. Kailash is the summit of every temple, like an antenna that gathers divine magical energies and accumulates them. There is also the Antarala, the vestibule in front of the temple for those who pray, and the Mandapa, the hall where people absorb this pure divine energy after receiving darshan of the deity. Thus, a temple built according to the principles of sacred geometry and architecture and properly consecrated is a divine magical device that generates pure sattva and spreads it to people. And so, for those people who lack this sattva, the temple is very much needed because they do not have a temple in their soul. But if we ourselves have built a temple in our soul and we have become the source of this sattva, then yes, we ourselves become a walking temple. We ourselves become a source of divine energy and we generously share it with others. Then perhaps we do not need it ourselves. This also happens quite often when, instead of going to a temple, people simply come to the ashram and bow to the guru. And here the principle is that bowing to a spiritual teacher or to some saint substitutes a pilgrimage to a temple or a holy place. Because both contain sufficient amount of pure, luminous, sattvic energy. And there was even a story about this when one man set out on a pilgrimage. Many villagers told him, "Ask God for this, ask God for that, bring me some holy water from that temple," and so on. And this man was on a long pilgrimage, but after about 3 days he met a saint sitting under a tree. The saint was sitting in samadhi, radiating great blessings. He stopped in front of this saint, bowed, sat down, and meditated. He was filled with such grace, such unearthly purity, such greatness, that tears streamed from his eyes, and he himself entered samadhi, a transcendent state. A deity appeared to him and said, "You have no need to go on this pilgrimage. You bow to this saint. This saint is a guru, and all the blessings you would receive there, you will receive right here." And that person only asked the saint for some sanctified water, some sacred object. And he understood, walked around him 3 times, performed a parikrama, and bowed to him. He returned and distributed the sacred objects to the peasants from his village and said that he had received all the blessings. He had completed the pilgrimage. When he was asked, "But how? This is a distant pilgrimage, yet you returned in just 6 days. 3 days to get there and 3 days to return." He said, "Yes, I met a great saint whose holiness and reserve of auspicious energy were such that there was no need to go anywhere else because I received everything I wanted, and you will receive these same blessings." This is what it means to fulfill the temple within. If this is the case with you, then your statement is true. You do not need to go to the temple if you are that sage from whom other people are so blessed. But if you feel that you need it, so go to temples for sure. It's a noble cause. Om Namaste.